That leads us to surrender point number 6. We need to understand that almost everything influences the quality of our sleep. And this idea of developing a wise heart, of surrendering to a lifestyle which follows biblical principles, of doing the things that God has ordained for us to do and are pleasing to God. Once again, we saw that Matthew Henry said, the way to have a good night is to keep a good conscience. And the sleep as of a laboring man, so is the wise and godly man is sleep. And we're reminded of that promise, that conditional promise there in Proverbs 3, that when we lie down, we will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. That promise of rest, that promise of refreshing, invigorating sleep is there. But we can't just arbitrarily disconnect that from the rest of Proverbs 3 and all of those things that affect our sleep. Once again, so many times we fail to understand the connection of all of the decisions we make during our daily life and how they can affect our sleep. You know, we can't expect to make decisions on our own during the daytime and then expect God to bless us as we go down to sleep. We have to integrate our lives and get out of this compartmentalized idea. And then as we do that, and we look again at the directions, at God's actual principles of our life, we'll be able to sleep better. Once again, we've compartmentalized our lives, that our relationship with God is over on one corner, that our health is over here, and we fail to realize how connected all these things are to our sleep. We live in a stressed out lifestyle in this nanosecond culture in which we live, and we're more influenced by what culture says than by what God says. But we're seeing here a better picture of what this looks like, how everything in our life should flow out of our passion for God and our priorities that are given by God. Once again, there are no substitutes, okay? Only additives, only adjuncts, only supplements. That medicine or sleeping pills or whatever are only to be taken in faith. They're not to be a substitute for our faith. Some have positives, some have negatives, but all these things, aromatherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, valerian root tea, all these things are substitutes. And as long as we take these things in faith and understands that God can use any mean that He chooses, then that is the appropriate formula or foundation for all of these other supplements. Surrender point number 7 tells us that a wise heart progressively incorporates the practice of discernment and judgment into his or her daily decisions. And that's what it's all about, this idea of reprogramming, of using the sleep test, that I can sleep well tonight because fill in the blank. That as we lay our heads on our pillow and we reflect back on our day, we can have that clean conscience and knowing that we made the decisions that God would have us make today for that day. Ecclesiastes 5:12 once again reminds us that the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. And just like Solomon, who had all the fame and the fortune, and yet all the wisdom of his time, like Michael Jackson, all the trappings, all the talents, all those things, but yet the one thing that he so desired he could not have because of the abundance of our society. All the things that we have that could potentially rob us of sleep. The abundance of information, the abundance of opportunities, the abundance of activities, money, wealth, resources. We spend a lot of time talking about the abundance of food. Isn't it interesting that Jesus said that I have come to give them life and to give it more abundantly? That the life that Jesus gives is abundant. But yet, the abundance that the world gives, this artificial sweetener, is something that does not satisfy and in fact can actually rob us of sleep.